What's up everybody, John from Old Reading Farm here. Thanks for joining us. In today's video, we are gonna do the 1-year review of my Woodland Mills HM136MAX sawmill. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been working with a sawmill for about like 2.5 years, maybe 3 years at this point, it's hard to say. I originally started off with a Woodland Mills HM122 sawmill. And that was the smallest sawmill that they offer. It's also one of the smallest sawmills that you can actually get. And I sort of ended up outgrowing that. And that's when I upgraded to this, the Woodland Mills HM136MAX sawmill, which is the biggest sawmill that Woodland Mills offers and one of the largest sawmills for like homeowner type use. Obviously a sawmill this size is more meant for heavy duty use, but not like commercial use. Also, just so you guys know, I am technically still a Woodland Mills ambassador, which means that they have sent me some things to try out. They actually sent me this power head for this, which raises and lowers the saw head with an electric motor. And they featured me on their website and stuff like that. So I just want to be clear with that up front. There's not going to be any selling in this video. I don't have a commission-based link. There's no coupon codes or anything like that. So I'm not here to sell you stuff. But I know that people like it sometimes when I talk about my equipment. So that's what I'm going to do. So hopefully what we're going to do here is I'm going to do some blabbing. I'll tell you a little bit about this machine in particular, and we'll piece in some footage of me doing some sawing, maybe some old sawmill stuff, maybe some newer sawmill stuff, and maybe we'll even saw a log today. We'll have to see. But so, to get started with it, let's run through some specs. All right, so I have some of the specs pulled up on my phone, so in case you see me, that's what that is. So this sawmill, it is a Woodland Mills Max sawmill, which means that the maximum diameter log that you can put on here is the same as the maximum cut width. Now, what that means is, unlike my HM122, which could fit a 22-inch diameter log, the maximum cut width was only 17 inches. So that means you could fit a 22-inch round log on there, but then when you do the actual cutting of that log to make it a square, the maximum width that you can cut is 17 inches. On this baby, the biggest log you can cut is 36 inches, and honestly, you can do a little bit bigger than that. And the maximum width you can cut is also 36 inches. So that means you can cut some big freaking logs on this thing. And honestly, I have not found a log big enough to actually be bigger. You know, because you'll find when you have logs, you know, there'll be some like little outcroppings and there'll be some knots and some things. So you'll have to do some trimming when you have some really big logs on here. And I should have some footage of when I maxed this out with a shorter log, but it was about 36, 37 inches wide. So we also have the adjustable blade guide. So that slides in and it slides out. So when you get down to those smaller cuts, you can really dial it in, and that way you don't have this big, long gap of blade. When you have the blade extended all the way like this, when you're maxing it out, if you're just cutting a little part on this side, you have much more chance for it to bend, and then you get a wavy cut. So this way you can really dial it in when you're doing those smaller cuts as well. We have a 21 horsepower Honda GX630 engine on this, or motor, and I believe on all of the other Woodland Mills models they have Kohler engines. So this is really cool to have a super powerful engine on here, because you know, obviously you can cut smaller logs with the bigger mills. And that was the one thing that I sort of ran into with the HM122. It was a great machine, but I ended up getting logs that were bigger than it more often. And, you know, we were actually doing pretty well with the chainsaw carving stuff, and I found that I could mill, you know, little carving blanks out of bigger logs. And so it just sort of made sense when they released this to get it. So they released this in September of 2023. that make sense? Yes. They released this in September, I believe, of 2023, and they had like this whole premiere video with the silhouette, and they just showed like the Honda engine, and I was getting super excited about it. Because again, like going from a very small sawmill to a big sawmill was a jump that made sense in my mind. But anyway, we got the coolant tank up here. I got the power head, which apparently I was just looking at their website, and now the power head comes with the mill itself. So you usually, or when I first bought this, it had a hand crank to raise and lower the saw head, but now it automatically comes with that, which is great. This thing with the power head makes everything so much easier. You're so much more precise and fast. So the standard track length on this gives you the ability to cut 10.5 feet, or like 10 feet 5 inches, something like that. Now, because a lot of what I build around here has at least one 12-foot side, I wanted to make sure that I can cut more than that. So I got one extra track extension, so I can cut up to almost 17 feet long. I think it's like a 16-foot, 11-inch log, which is awesome. Because I do also have some 16-foot sides, and so like the last thing that I built was the donkey barn. The last big thing that I built was the donkey barn, and that was 16 feet by 12 feet, and I needed a couple of big beams to go all the way from one side to the other, so I cut down a tulip tree, and I milled a couple of super long, both a 2x6 and I think a 4x8 beam, something like that. So being able to cut that 16 feet really makes a big difference. And I gotta tell you, when you're setting this thing up, you really just wanna set it up one time. So that's, and I'll say it out front, I really don't have anything bad to say about this machine at all. When I had the HM122 sawmill, I loved it. Everything worked great. And honestly, every time I've had like a little hiccup, or maybe I did something wrong, you call Woodland Mills and their customer service team is always there, and they're always super helpful. They, you never feel like antagonistic with their team, and they also have a great Facebook page that they run with a huge community of like Woodland Mills sawyers, and it really is just a great community most of the time. But everybody is so helpful. The tech support guys are super helpful. The service team is excellent. Everybody there is great. And that's one of the reasons why I was actually comfortable buying this machine, because a lot of times when you buy the first iteration of a product, there's gonna be bugs, there's gonna be problems, and things are gonna go wrong. That's why they always say don't buy the first model year of a car, because they haven't worked out all the bugs yet. With this, I was very confident in buying this because I knew that if something went wrong, their team was gonna be there to help me out. So, yeah, so that's number one. I don't have anything bad to say about it. The only thing that I did not like about this machine was how intense the setup was. So I also was an idiot, and I set this up in January of 2024, and there was snow on the ground, much like there is right now, and that really complicated things. It was also cold and miserable to be out here. But besides that, and I knew sort of what I was getting into because I had set up the HM122. And one of the things about Woodland Mills is that their mills are very affordable, which is great because, it allows everybody to get some. Because, you look at, other brands of sawmills and they are, super duper expensive. But anyway, so the setup on this is really intense. And part of the reason is because you have to do the mounting of the motor to the clutch, and the clutch sits inside here. Sorry, there's probably sawdust in here because I am messy. But so the clutch is right here, and so you basically have to seat the motor on the housing and put the the drive shaft through and connect all that stuff. That's all stuff that I had never really done before. But again, I was able to talk to Woodland Mills if there were any problems and get them solved. So then, also regarding the setup, getting this puppy on the tracks especially if you don't have a piece of equipment to move it, is going to be very difficult because this thing weighs an awful lot. I think it's close to 1,000 pounds if I'm not mistaken. Luckily I have the tractor. You know, they do say that you should have, you know, 2 people setting this whole thing up. I built this thing completely 100% on my own, just me and my tractor. I was able to get it done. I'm sure if I had somebody helping me out, it would have been much more fast, but you can do it by yourself. And yeah, I've been using this for a year solid now. Because like I said, I finally got it set up in January 2024. And it is now February of 2025. I've put a little over 100 hours on it. And, you know, that's really because in February of last year, I started working here full time. And so I've milled everything from 2x4s, 4x4s, you know, 4/4 slabs to, you know, 8x8s. One of the other great things about this is the throat. So your maximum depth of cut is 8.5 inches. So that means, you know, there's always like an elusive thing on the message boards of like cutting the elusive 8-inch by 8-inch post. For whatever reason, I don't know why that particular measurement is so important, but 8.5 inches on this thing is great. And I know, so that means you can get like an 8.5 inch thick board, which is great for me because my mushroom blanks are 8 inches by 8 inches. So that makes it easy for me. But also the reason why that's so important is just so you can make big cuts on this. And yeah, I hope that makes sense. Just in terms of how I use this thing, for the vast majority of things that I do with this, I'm not doing anything that is fine carpentry. I have cut slabs with it, but for the most part, I'm cutting rough lumber, I'm cutting siding, I'm cutting, you know, little mushroom blanks and things like that. And this has done tremendously awesome work. I did have one issue where I think the clutch burnt out, but I may have actually had one of the drive belts a little bit too tight. But anyway, other than that, I have had zero problems. And like I said before, Woodland Mills is just, their customer service is better than none. And I know you might be thinking to yourself, well, why are you getting, you know, a product where you know you're going to have to contact the customer service team? I think whenever you come to sort of like a complex or even, you know, a simple machine like this and you're doing heavy duty rugged work with it, it's good to know that you have a company behind you that's going to take care of you. You know, you're not going to be with some company that sells, you know, 10 zillion sawmills every year. You're with a company who A, is in North America, they're a Canadian company, so you know they're nice. And then B, they're always going to be there for you. You know, I had so many questions when I was setting this up because I think I have ADD, and so when it comes to like reading the instruction manual, it's really hard for me to stay focused. And they were with me every second of the way, and you know, always, you know, the warranty is super easy to use, meaning that basically if you're within warranty and you have a part that's covered, they just send it to you. It's the best. Even as a beginning sawyer, this mill has been the best. I think it was very good that I started with a smaller mill. That way I really sort of got the hang of what I was doing and what I needed to do before I spent, you know, the big investment on this one. But there's a couple things that I would definitely say if you're looking to get your own sawmill, I would for sure go bigger than you think you need to. Because having a bigger mill doesn't mean that you can't cut small logs. In fact, having a bigger mill makes small logs way easier. The HM136MAX may be a little bit too big for some people, but like, this has been great. And I would suggest Woodland Mills over any company just because, again, the customer service, everything works out well, and it's super duper affordable. So, yeah. You know, and this sort of started as like, I started with milling, just thinking about, you know, well, we're gonna build all these fences for our animals. You know, it's gonna cost like $10,000 to do fencing here. Why don't we just get a sawmill? Then we have all these trees. We have 30 acres of trees. So it really just made sense. And ever since then, I have become pretty good at it. And I just love this mill, man. It's also really just helped us. I don't think we would be able to do our business without it. But anyway, so I'm sure you saw or got the feeling from the beginning of this video that I was going to tell you how great this sawmill is. I got nothing bad to say about it. So if you're looking to get your own sawmill, make sure you get a Woodland Mills, and I don't know, you can tell them that you got it from me. Thanks, guys. See you next time.